it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Trying out a trying out a new spot tonight, so see how that goes. Live and direct from my bedroom.
Oh, you laid up or?
No, I can sit like honestly at this point, like my abdomen doesn't hurt so much as like when I fell, I like fell on my left shoulder. And my arm got tucked under me, so I kind of nailed my ribs too. I didn't break any ribs, but I bruised. So
Oof.
just a little discomfort there, and still got the leg thing going on. So
Yeah. Oof.
yeah,
Hi guys.
Jeez.
good,
Hey.
good times.
I'm just listening.
What's up, Double B?
Shuddering.
Drinking beer.
Not anymore. I'm underwater now.
Oh, the water. Nice. I'm on the coffee. The coffee and the water.
I had enough coffee today at work.
Work.
Oh.
Sorry, dude. I haven't worked in like 3 weeks and don't have to go back for like another month.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
And it's even nicer because I'm getting paid 100% for 8 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's pretty. I get 25 weeks total if I need. And it's 100% for 8, and then I get, if I were to stay longer, it would be like 66 and 2/3% or some nonsense like that. But
Might be worth it.
I'm very lucky to have that option, so it's good. It's good. All right.
All right. Well, you want to we'll get rid of the I guess some of the house cleaning, like Nancy's best friend Roberto Garza being gone.
I don't care. I thought it was funny how didn't they just sign him to an extension?
The old regime did.
The regime did. So that gets canceled out. That's kind of gotta suck. I mean, I whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But you gotta move on at some point from all these guys, and that's where. I mean, that's why all these 1-year contracts are coming in. I love that they're signing everybody to a 1-year deal.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Everything is 1 year.
I think it's smart though. I mean.
Oh yeah.
But you also got to, I mean, they got to start drafting good. If they're going to give out 1-year contracts, they got to start drafting good.
Yes. That's what it's always going to come down to. And I know we've talked to death about that.
Oh yeah.
Drafting.
I'm looking at my Bears draft list since '91 right here.
Don't. We don't want you.
No, dude.
We don't want anything happening to you during.
We were talking about this last week, Brandon. So I was like, I want to go back and see who they passed on, and so I did all the way back to Stan Thomas, and they passed on some people that. I mean, given at the time, you don't know what they were looking for at the time, but there's some interesting people that were picked right behind their picks. That is just like, you should have noticed that this person was better than the person you picked. But
all right, who do you got? Who are some of the highlights?
Was there a punter taken immediately after McClellan? Because that would have been a better pick.
No, I mean, it was really rough because I mean, honestly, there's just a lot of names out there, and I'm not going to go click on every single name. So I kind of went to, and these are all first-round picks. I kind of went to about a couple of picks into the second round to see who might have been passed on just out of interest, and then. For years, where they didn't have a first-round pick, I found out why they didn't and where they would have been and who they missed out on because they made stupid trades or whatever. I mean, some notables in '91. I mean, who knew about Brett Favre? But they passed on Brett Favre. They passed on Ricky Waters. Who else have they passed on? Let me see. Curtis Conway, the '93 draft. Willie Roaf was picked right behind him. Lincoln Kennedy was picked right behind Willie Roaf, and Jerome Bettis was picked right behind. They were 8, 9. So Curtis Conway was 7, Roaf was 8, Kennedy was 9, and Bettis was 10. So I mean, there's some interesting stuff. It's not every year. I mean, they don't really do anything every, but there's some solid players. And I mean, most of what I actually found, like I would look at some they passed on a lot of linemen that had like 10 or 11 year careers, starting like 16 games a year. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like let me see, the Walt Harris year. They passed on Eddie George, Marvin Harrison, Ray Lewis, and Lawyer Malloy. And for instance, in '97, they had traded their first. Listen to this. They traded their first round selection, which was overall, to Seattle for Rick Meyer. Okay. And they passed on. I mean, whatever. If you want to, I think Warwick Dunn had a pretty decent career. They passed on him. They passed on Tony Gonzalez that year because they didn't have a
Who was their tight end at the time? Like Ryan Wetnight?
Probably.
Ugh.
Probably. I mean, the Enos year, they passed on Grant Wistrom, Kyle Turley, Fred Taylor, but he's, getting hurt all the time, so whatever. And Keith Brooking. Who else? And that would have been Randy Moss too, because Randy Moss went 21 in that draft. I mean, I would have taken Randy Moss, right?
I wanted Randy Moss.
He's never done anything, but he's never done it.
Like the '99 draft, Cade McNown. They passed on Champ Bailey. They passed on Chris McAllister. They passed on Troy Edwards. They passed on Javon Curse. They passed on Antoine Winfield. They passed on Patrick Kearney. And actually they would have had, in '99, they traded their first round pick. They would have picked 7th, but they traded it to the Redskins. It says the Bears traded their first round pick, 7th overall, to the Redskins for their '99 for the 12th overall pick, and then their third round pick, 4th round, for a bunch of 4th and 5th and whatever.
Yeah, so
I didn't look into
picks. Yeah.
I didn't look in with it. I mean, it was just a big, huge pick swap. I mean, and there was years like the Urlacher year, you can't like I didn't even bother looking into who they passed on because you got a potential, Hall of Famer out of that. So you can't really let's see, the David Terrell year, they passed on Steve Hutchinson, Jeff Backus, Deuce McAllister, Michael Bennett, Reggie Wayne, Todd Heap, Drew Brees. I mean, there's not like these guys are all going to turn out. You don't know at the time, but just to go back and look at it is kind of like how we were specific. Remember, we were specifically talking about Michael Haynes.
Yeah.
They passed on Troy Polamalu. They passed on Troy Polamalu, Willis McGahee, Dallas Clark, and Nnamdi Asamoah.
And what year was that?
And the 2003 draft.
And they've needed a safety since 2003.
Yeah, but McGahee didn't have a leg, so you can't use that.
That's true. But he had an insurance policy. That was for him.
Yeah, that's right. That was like the first time you ever really heard about it.
But they picked 14th, and Polamalu went 16th, so he's right there. I mean, other years you look, and like the Tommy Harris year, you really can't complain about Tommy Harris. Honestly, I know it didn't end up good, but for instance, that year they could have gotten Vince Wilfork, who's still playing. You know what I mean? Like, and then the other funny thing is to see how many current Bears that are on their roster that they passed on. Like the Cedric Benson year, they passed on Antrell Roll. He's whatever. But they also passed on Carlos Rogers, DeMarcus Ware, Aaron Rodgers, and Roddy White. And Logan Mankins. All those were all first round picks picked beyond him. I mean, they're honestly.
I'm just see building a super team. That's oh man.
What up?
That's all I hear.
I mean, you can't. I mean, I know at the time, you can't whatever you're gonna do, but. I mean, there's just some times where you're like, why were you picking this guy? But then what it really all goes back to is that you know.
I'd love to compare those to that draft guide. I think it's the Pro Football. Is it the Pro Football Focus, or who's the one that they in the afternoon show uses for the segment for draft? Right around draft time, and they read like the pros and cons.
The Barkesh deal, is that the one? Is that the Pro Football Focus? Is that the?
I can't recall. Brandon, do you know?
I don't know.
Or is it the one with like the sabermetrics?
It's the one. It's the Scouts Guide. I can't remember.
Okay.
Can't remember who does it, but they include a lot of the new language. Like, I'm trying to think of some of the tackle. Makes plays in space, or it lists all the pros and cons of all that scouting language, and then they say, okay, well, here's also the detracting. I mean, it's also pretty good 50-50. Okay, here's the highlights, here's the low points. Like, okay, he's a character problem, or has weight issues, or is going to be found with has a problem with drugs. He's always in an area where drugs are at, or
he's going to be found.
Cannabis is always in his car
in a hotel room with prostitutes.
When not in practice, he can be found with prostitutes.
One of the other was that. Okay, so
that's the start of a Hall of Fame career, though.
So like the 2010
you find
year,
your position.
Yes.
Okay, so in 2009, they 2009 back-to-back years, 2009 and 2010. That's when they traded Orton and their first-round picks in 2009 and 2010. And okay, so they traded Orton, 2 first-rounders, a third-round pick for Cutler, right? Yes. And they got Cutler and the 5th-round pick, which was used for Johnny Knox, which is a pointless draft pick because he doesn't play anymore.
He broke.
But like for instance, like okay, so 2009, they passed on Jeremy Maclin. They passed on Clay Matthews. They passed on LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy went 53rd overall.
That's smart, though.
A lot of people I know is a running back. So, but then the interesting thing is the 2010 where they didn't have a pick because of that deal. They passed on Earl Thomas, Jason Pierre-Paul, Demaryius Thomas, Des Bryant, and Gronkowski.
Yo soy fiesta.
So, I mean, you don't know what these are going to turn out. It's just interesting.
True.
I think that, it's a funny thing. I read I forget who it was. Somebody tweeted something about this yesterday, but they said something like, you never hear anybody complain about the Packers free agency sign. You never hear about Packer free agency signings because they don't sign anybody in free agency because they draft so well. You know what I mean? You don't.
I think part of it is not only drafting well; it's developing those draft picks. I feel like some of the guys that the Bears have drafted, had the Packers drafted them, they'd be Pro Bowlers.
Yeah,
because they would have developed the guy instead of letting him rot.
Well, I mean, even other teams. I mean, look at Gabe Carimi. He was absolute crap for us, and he's starting for the Cowboys now, right?
Right, on the best offensive line in football.
Yeah, so I mean, even
I think part of it is coaching. Like I feel like they haven't coached up their players in years.
Well,
they never have. I think they've always relied on that talent, that raw talent, to get them there and ride that out. Who was the other? Look at Shea McClellan. I mean, all the rumors that swirled around him, and that he was going to be. The first thing that they said was Shea McClellan. Where is he from? Boise State.
Yeah.
Okay, Boise State and potential draft pick from Green Bay. Those were the selling points immediately that were out there for him.
Except Green Bay would have taken him in like the 4th round.
Right. Someone didn't get their notes right and say Green Bay's going to go pick him.
They don't have I can't remember. I'm sorry. I totally cut you off and now I have nothing to say. Screw myself. Yeah, they don't know how to evaluate talent properly. They over evaluate talent on a regular basis. And they think they need to grab guys at a certain number in the draft, it seems, when they don't, because I don't know.